You know when things just aren't going your way? Oh man. Monday morning, we're in the yard. The time is 6 a.m. We just had a recap on where we got to on Saturday of last week, and now we're gonna continue the work. Ollie's gone to collect a roller, which we're going to use to compact the material in this area. On Saturday of last week, I turned off the water supply to the wheel wash reservoir because I was worried that it was going to freeze. Well, the weather changed on us again. It just rained the entire weekend, but it wasn't too cold. We have plenty of work to do to prepare the wheel wash for tomorrow. We only have 3 lorries going out today. We have some jersey barriers here, which we're going to remove. We're going to clear out any soft material in front of this slab leading up to the wheel wash. We're going to put some recycled material in as a ramp to build up to get onto it. There's a lot to do, and by the end of today, this yard needs to look completely different. So while Ollie collects the roller, I am gonna turn on the supply to the wheel wash so we can get testing again. We're collecting the roller directly from site and not from the supplier. The supplier didn't have any left in stock and the hire had ended on this beauty. So to speed up the process, they allowed us to go and collect directly. Been seeing a lot on the news talking about billionaires leaving this country and now a lot of millionaires. So roughly about 4,000 millionaires have left the UK, like in the last 12 months. And by the end of this year, another roughly 5,000 millionaires will also leave this country as well. Now, you saw a few weeks back, I was talking about the budget and how I felt it would affect our business. The budget was put in place to generate more taxes for the public purse. But if all of these millionaires leave the country, the government were trying to earn more in taxes from them. Now, the government aren't even going to get the money they were going to get before. Now, you might say,
what difference does it make? Let them go.
But it has a knock-on effect. The government now have less taxes for the public purse, less investment, there's less spending, which means there's going to be less jobs, there's going to be less revenue for businesses, there's going to be less revenue in property. So there's going to be less demand for luxury shops, luxury brands, luxury cars, and everything within the lavish life sector. Now, you may say,
well, what difference does that make?
The problem with that is those brands, they will not stay in this country if they don't have a business. And this results in less tax again. This results in job losses, and it's a massive knock-on effect. Now, I'm not claiming to have the answer to how we're going to fix this. I'm just trying to understand the situation and then work out a way forward, or how the rest of us who are still here, what we're going to do and how we're going to navigate around this economic depression, which looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. Sorry for that doom and gloom note. Anyway, we are going to compact the 6F5 material that we've put within the new parking area. It should give us a nice firm base. It should also handle the rainwater a little bit better. Then we're going to move the plant hire section, starting with the buckets. As of yet, things are not getting back to normal on the sites we normally work on with ground workers. However, the Central London penthouse project has kicked off and is in full effect. The bath has arrived. And thankfully it fits in the lift, so we haven't got to carry it all the way upstairs. We're boarding up the ceilings with 2 layers of 12.5mm plasterboard. We cut and fit as closely as we can to the stills, and then use expanding foam to completely seal the area and close the void. In the bathroom, the floor will be one complete waterproof membrane. We fit 2x2 timber at 400mm intervals with packers to create a level base. Then we fit 18mm ply, which is level until we reach the shower area, and then we begin to slope towards the drain. Dudek's on the way to program the wheel wash. Tank number 1 is now full, tank 2 is empty, and tank 3 is almost full. I'm gonna run a cycle of the wheel wash so we can start to get the water to push through. It's gonna go from tank 1 to the wheel wash, through the wheel wash, and return to tank number 3. When tank 3 is full, the water is filtered as it goes into tank 2. When tank 2 is full, it then pushes the water back into tank 1. And only when tank 1 is low does it work like a toilet cistern, and then it continues to fill with water until the entire system is full. We had a couple of leaks last week, which, as you can see now, are all sorted. Perfect. I'm going to now turn off the main pump because the main pump is working a bit more quickly than the return. The return pump is actually more powerful than the supply pump, but because of the filter it has on the bottom of it to stop any large debris getting into it, what can damage it, the water actually gets pumped through slower. But it's better for it to be slower, rather than big objects going in and then causing it damage. With the roller delivered and working well, we can now load this machine, which is going out for hire. You saw us wash this machine down on Saturday of last week in preparation for today. Dudek has spotted a few areas which will need welding as they're causing the system to lose pressure. When programming, you need to set up the main pump first based on how long it will take to wash the lorry. Then you need to set up the return pump. You need a delay before the return pump starts to give the main pump a chance to get the water into the wheel wash, and then by trial and error work out how long the return pump needs to stay on after the main pump has turned off. You don't want excessive amounts of water left in the wheel wash, but at the same time, you don't want the return pump trying to pump water which isn't there, as this could damage it. So we continually run the system, observing, timing, and testing until we get it right. I live in a bit of a bubble. I come to the yard and then I go home. I talk to my friends about their sectors, but I don't know how everybody else is getting on in the rest of the country with this recession that we're in. Or are we even in a recession, or am I just thinking about what we are going through and what my friends are going through and applying it to the rest of the country, which would be pretty ignorant if I was doing that. Question, how is everybody getting on out there? How is the job sector? Anybody working at a company? Are your companies downscaling? Any company owners, any entrepreneurs? Have you needed to take different paths? Have you changed the way you're doing things? Anyone doing any property? How are you finding lending? Anybody trying to buy a house? How are the mortgage rates? What is the general feeling in the country? I'd be interested to know. Ollie is now going to carry on dropping some barriers in place. Well wash is now correctly set up. We have put a 9-second delay between the return pump and the feed pump. And we tweaked a little bit of settings in the pump, and now the return pump is absolutely flying. We dropped some material here. We're going to bring the roller and compact this, and at the same time we're beginning to bring over the 40-yard bins. Tuesday morning, we're in the yard and we're going to test the ramp going onto the wheel wash. It's 0 degrees at the moment. Everything is extremely frosty. Here we go. Wait for it. Sensor didn't go off. 1 sec. Maybe it's too far away. Oh, there we go. The volumetrics were a great way to test because they'll be the heaviest vehicles. You can see by the weight that the crushed material which has been put in and compacted is not going to be sufficient. So we're going to dig out what we did yesterday and we're going to remove the shuttering on the edge here, and we're going to look for some material that the majority of it is stone. Drop that material in here and over there. We're going to compact it. Then we're going to have a look to see if we got some road plates like the ones which you can see at the front, and then put the road plates on top of it to stop us dragging material onto the road and to give it a little bit more stability. Whoa. That's why you test it. And we may need to move the sensor for the wheel wash a bit closer to the ramp because it didn't go off the first time there. You saw over the Christmas period, we did a fleet check on all the tyres to ensure the lorries were roadworthy and ready to go back out to work. Today we're examining the tyres which were taken off the lorries, repairing the ones which we can, and the rest are going for scrap. You know when things just aren't going your way? Oh man, we're trying to do all the work and now it's snowing. This is torture, man. This is proper torture. Thought we had a problem, but we assessed it correctly. We panicked at first, but then we calmed down.
the silo wasn't working and we couldn't load the concrete lorry. Our cement silo is a very rare horizontal unit, not like the ones you may have seen in the past, which are all vertical and very tall. So here's how it works. There are 3 screws, all operated by their own motor. The first is a horizontal screw at the bottom, which pushes the cement towards the vertical screw. This vertical screw then takes the cement up to another horizontal screw, which discharges onto the hopper on the back of the volumetric concrete lorries. The vertical screw wasn't working. Every time we tried to load the concrete lorry, it kept tripping out. We checked all the electrics, everything was fine. There's a panel on the side. We opened it, had a look inside, and somehow the seal had gone and water got inside, and the cement in this area had gone extremely hard, and the motor was tripping out because it was under too much pressure. We opened it, we cleaned out everything inside, and then straight away it started working. But I need to order a new seal, because if water goes in there, it is once again the beginning of the end. But the concrete lorry is going out to work, so that's what's most important. The ready-mix concrete on this project is needed in the rear garden. Our pump is off the road for repair, so we've hired in a third-party line pump. 40 meters of line is installed, which is a mix of metal and rubber pipe. The concrete itself is a C20 being installed for foundations.
I'm going through some funding emails, and I was just thinking to myself, the difference in the business when we didn't have any finance and we owned everything outright and we kept it small. Once upon a time, I had all older lorries which cost a lot of money in maintenance, and as they were older lorries, they burnt a lot more diesel. When I got newer lorries, we couldn't afford to buy them outright when we got to a certain point. And because we were ramping up so fast, at the time, when I calculated the saving in diesel between the old lorries and the new and the maintenance, there was actually a saving. But that saving only works when the lorries are flat out busy every day. Now, there have been times in the past, if you remember back a few years ago, when we were delivering the 6C material into HS2 at Maple Cross, no matter how many lorries we had, we couldn't keep up with the work. There have been other great times when work is going well. When you have finance and funding within your business, at those times it's fantastic. You can have a quiet day here or there because there's always things that need to be done to the lorry. Lorries go for MOT, you may need to do some work in your own yard. But when you're not busy for months on end, that's when you really feel it with having finance within your business, and the money that you made previously, you end up burning through those reserves and then you hope that you get busy again. Whereas having the older kit, it didn't cost you so much because you would just park it up. And if there was a couple of not so busy days, the lads would come in, they wash the lorries, you could have some crane inspections done. You can do the bits that you couldn't do when you're extremely busy. But people might say,
You tried to grow the business too fast.
But always remember that this business is based in London, and the rules around ULEZ came in, and I had no choice but to upgrade the entire fleet to brand new lorries, because they all had to be Euro 6. Now, we can sit here now and say,
but a Euro 6 tipper, you can get a cheap one with loads of miles on it for 20 grand.
At the time the ULEZ came in, Euro 6 lorries didn't cost that much money. Euro 6 tippers were in excess of £100,000. Retrospectively, looking back and having all the answers is one thing, but that wouldn't have worked at the time. They wouldn't allow my old lorries into HS2. This is one of the constraints of infrastructure projects and operating in London within the M25. So I'm just trying to weigh up, was it better when we had a smaller fleet and we had no finance, or is it better when you do have finance on the kit but you can afford to pay it and you have lots of newer lorries which burn less diesel and require less to maintain, and you get less downtime with them, but you owe the bank and finance companies a lot of money which you're trying to pay off? I know which one I prefer. Which one do you think that is? Anyway, let's continue with the Jersey barriers, which we started yesterday.
We're going to take a couple of Jersey barriers from over that side and we're going to continue them over here. And then we're going to pile some concrete blocks, there's no name before them, and we're going to do an L shape here, only 3 high, just so we can put some recycled material against it and the shovel can enter the bay from both sides. It's going to be temporary and it's not designed to take the load that the ones in the previous yard had. It's just designed to give an outline of where the material backs up against it. In other news, some news surfaced today, which I can't go fully into. I keep getting told by advisors,
Stop sharing everything because it's detrimental to you.
I am fully aware of what's going on. While I do get blindsided with problems that pop up on a day-to-day basis, generally, I am in the know and I find a way to navigate and get around it. It's about making the right decision. But you need to understand what the right decision is. That's the key. There's always a way to get around it and make it happen, but what is the actual right decision for you? I was just about to lock up in the yard and realised I left the manual override on the lights on top of the workshop and in the workshop because we had another problem with the silo. There must be a short circuit somewhere. We couldn't load one of the concrete lorries, turned off the main power, turned off all the RCDs inside, and then turned the power back on and turned them on one by one, and then it worked. So it's an intermittent fault, which is a problem, and we don't know what it is. And I genuinely can't believe the day I've just had. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. You know, sometimes there's a plan and you know what you're going to do and you spend time putting everything in place. Months of work goes into it and someone just decides,
Do you know what? I'm just going to tell everyone.
Which throws a bit of a spanner in the works. Oh, let's get out of here. And what's interesting is when you are on your face, or when people believe you're on your face, or when you're mid-transition, it's amazing to see where the phone calls come from, what people write online, how happy or sad they are for you, and their reasoning behind it. It's a real eye-opener. If somebody says that something we're doing here is great, I always think to myself, it can be improved. Because when you think about it like that, if somebody says,
You're lower than a snake's belly and you're not at the top of the mountain, you're at the bottom of the ocean.
You can also take that with a pinch of salt and just keep it level. That nothing excites you or makes you too sad on the inside, while still appreciating that even if it's negative, people have taken the time to watch and comment. But that was an extremely long day. And it kind of sidetracked me because I was desperate to get this wheel wash up and running. Towards the end of the day, we started to drop road plates in place. I think we have another 6 or 7 road plates which were in the old yard. They're just going to overlap onto the concrete pad a bit until we can get the lads back into concrete, and we're just going to have to concrete this area. But we can't do it when the temperature is so cold. Currently, it is 2 degrees, and that's it for a very long and emotional day in the yard. It's Wednesday and I'm in the yard. The time is 6 a.m. We have a train arriving. We just need to move one of the tippers, which is parked near the rail line. Flo has fired up the LH60 and there's some bags which are sat on the rail line which were meant to go out yesterday, but they didn't because the job got moved back. It's actually -2 at the moment, which is a bit of a problem because the concrete jobs we have on Obviously no one is going to pour in -2, so the drivers are going to have to wait around for a little while, but because we've got a train coming in, there's plenty to do around the yard. Onwards and upwards. Morning! Little bit of a problem within our yard. All is well. Our switch is working. So the train uncoupled and was going to move over to the secondary line to go around and do the runaround as you've seen in the past. However, the one out on the main network is frozen, which means that currently the train cannot run around. Network Rail are sending an emergency team out to come and have a look at it, but if the train has to leave before they arrive, the train is going to have to reverse out of the yard, wagons first, then go down to Colnbrook as it did in the past. Flo and the shunter are having to navigate around, shunting the train forwards and backwards. But when you have a fabulous train line installed, these issues don't give you massive problems. You can find a way around it. Network Rail arrived faster than a food delivery and repaired. So now the loco can run round and the offload can continue. The time now is 4 p.m. and we've had to bring a specialist in because we need to repair a hose on the 914 and one on the L860. Time is 7 p.m, last one in the yard, just locking up. At the moment, I don't speak to any business owner in any sector who's having a great time and doing well with large, small businesses. You haven't quite crossed over into a small, large business. I have not spoke to one who's saying that
The economy is good and things are flying.
it's quite the opposite. Things are tight. They're having to make layoffs, and what are they doing it all for? And that's it for Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. It's Thursday. We're in the yard. We have a couple of road plates. Nice. We had to go looking for them, and we managed to find them tucked away and hidden. The shovels brought them round, and Flo is going to use the 914. We're going to take the 3 of these and place them over here, and a small one, which is over there, we're going to put that at the front gate. And we found a couple of other halves as well. So we're going to drop, scratching, so we're going to drop those halves on top of the area here. So we've covered all the stony ground, and there's only solid ground exposed. Look at that, it's made for it. That is absolutely perfect. Then we're going to track the machine out to the front of the yard. We're going to use the washer and we're going to clean out the tracks, give the machine a full wash down. Then we're going to take the time to move around it in grease. While the washer's set up to clean the 914, any lorry which comes off the wheel wash, we're also going to give it a blast to ensure that they're looking clean and 100% nothing gets dragged onto the road. The key is when the big lorries are coming off loaded, you don't want them rocking. Pack underneath the road plate so the road plate can distribute the weight well. We'll do both, so we'll drop another one here and another one there. Nice, too high. It's not gonna work, you're gonna have to spin it. The debris and the dirt that drops here, we're piling it up over there. Now, let's be honest, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Like, we should be ashamed. It should never be allowed to get that bad. That's absolutely terrible. Hopefully, we can clean the tracks out and then give it a shot of grease. And then hopefully she begins to run a bit smoother. But yeah, it should have never got this bad. I'm not really a man to point the finger. However, there was a little bit of a complaint came in about the road. And I went out onto the road and I thought, but it can't be. It's not us. Like, the road is spotless. The road is clean. I called Michael and I said, send a road sweeper again. But I'm like, it can't be us. Well, then I took a little trip up the road and realized that there was another site on the road. Now, I'm not a man who would just be pointing the fingers at other people, or blaming other people, or mentioning them by name, or sitting in court pointing across the dock and say that is the gentleman who did it. All I'm saying is that the complaints aren't warranted to be pointed in this direction. The road is dirty in places, but that most definitely didn't come from here. As you can see, we are putting in place every effort and endeavour to ensure these lorries go on the road clean and safe, and we keep the road spotless for the local residents. Hashtag just saying. We're not having much luck at the moment with these hydraulic hoses. We have another in a very awkward place which has just failed on the grab lorry. So a specialist is in to repair. We're out in a baby grab delivering screen topsoil. The Baby Grab is perfect for these reduced turning circles where space to maneuver is minimal. But to be clear, it is only the length and axle configuration which differentiate the Baby Grab from the full size. It's the same width and has the same highest point, which is the top of the crane, as its larger brother.
I could honestly look through the window and see 100 things that we need to do or fix or implement. And it's just very intense and full on, and all of it costs money and generates no money whatsoever. That's kind of what it's been like for That's not good. See? A message comes through, an email comes through. Why does nobody ever have good news for me? Just bad news, forward Daniel, see below. Or it comes direct to me, like, or WhatsApp or a message. Trying to run a business while you grow a business and set up infrastructure for a business all at the same time is so intense. You need to have your blinkers on, and you basically have to block out everything else because you can't do both. One will suffer. But when you're doing all of this work to grow this business, this child, to bring it up well, spending all this money and doing it, you can neglect other things like yourself, your health, and people around you. You can't do both. If you're thinking of starting your own business and think,
I want to start my own business because I'm going to choose my hours and life will be easier.
I could be wrong, but my experience and everyone I know is that you are dreaming if you think that will happen. It's so intense and continuous, and it lets up rarely. Maybe Sunday morning for a few hours, but by Sunday evening you're thinking about the next day, and you spend all your time trying to grow it, and everything that you set aside, other people, yourself, your health, you then end up trying to fix all of those things with the money or the value that you've created in the business. So you drive your health, your mental and your physical health into the ground, get yourself all sorts of chest pains, and you just ignore it and keep going, and things are going wrong, and you need to just fix what's going on at work. But there'll come a point when you also need to fix yourself. And in business, most of the time, there isn't a problem that enough money can't fix. Whether you can get that money or not is a different thing altogether. But with your health, and if you miss time with some people in your life, those are things that money and revenue is not going to bring back. Now, I know this isn't generally the path I go down. It's all work, work, work. But sometimes things happen and you think that you've got huge problems, and something else happens to yourself, health-wise, or someone else, and then you realize that maybe they're not as important as you think. And perhaps it's not, like 50 would say, do it or literally die trying.
We're out of Nathan, aka Bronson, and an 8x4 tipper on a delivery of some primary type 1. The lads on site put down some membrane, so we're not tipping straight onto a mucky surface. A wheel wash, the hot topic at the moment. Obviously it's not as good as ours, but it still does the job and ensures we leave the site clean. I've left the yard on the way to a meeting. Last couple of days, I've been in a bit of pain, limping. There was something wrong with a few of my toes, and I'm thinking, well, it can't be ingrowing toenails all at the same time. I haven't stubbed my toe. My shoes aren't too small for me. I don't put fashion in front of comfort, what on earth is going on here? Why are they swollen? And it turns out I've got something called cold blains, something like that, which is a mild form of frostbite. Maybe I'm not wearing warm enough socks, being stood in the yard and water getting into my boots for extended hours of time. That would explain it, which is prohibiting me from trying to do some cardio and work on the old ticker to try and keep healthy. But when you know what something is, then at least you can try to address it and improve it a bit. Quite excited about the meeting I'm going to, and that doesn't often happen, which brings me to more thinking about how things change. And there's a time when you do things because you want to do them, and you do them because they're exciting, and then it just turns around to a time when you're just doing what you have to do the entire time, and you just get on with it as best you can. But until you sit back and think about it, you don't actually remember a time when you were so excited about what was happening and it was going extremely well. You've just turned into this firefighting robot on autopilot with a cloud above their head that does what is required to get by and try to move forward and combat issues as they pop up somewhat. But I guess one could argue that just comes with being a responsible adult, and a lot of the time we are products, and our environment can be, unless it's unforeseen and you had no control of it, but generally our decisions shape our day-to-day lives and how they work, unless something happens out of your control or you have health issues. Caveat, caveat, caveat. Bronson has arrived at his next job, which is a muck away. Unfortunately, the site will not let Luke get out and film, so we're going to have to settle for the mirror view. Having a little issue with the washer, so the hire company have popped out to have a look. It wouldn't get going without a jump start, so we think it needs a new battery. We'll continue to monitor this situation. It's Saturday. We're in the yard. It's -2. The ground is completely frozen and there's not a lot we can do. Our lovely forklift transmission is in, but we can't get it into reverse. We think there's a problem with one of the cables which we need to check, but you can barely use your hands, and this isn't exactly a pit. The important thing is that the jack came back and worked perfectly, and the transmission is all connected. She's up and running, but we only have forward gear at this time. Other than that, paperwork to ensure we are ready for Monday, and work is beginning to ramp up. Last week, first day, 3 lorries out, then it was 5 lorries, then it was 6, then 8. And let's hope on Monday some of the projects are going to be kicking off. Not that this weather helps us in the slightest, but we hope that work ramps up and we can soon get busy again. Talking point. What is giving up? Because we can all say,
Never give in, keep going, keep pushing, it'll happen.
but we're not all professional sports people, and we don't all squat and bench press every day of the week. So what is giving up? What is it in the context of life and running businesses? Whatever you're doing, should you keep doing it no matter what and never give up, and somehow something fantastic will happen? Or if you see an opportunity and there's a new path, should you take it if it is the smart thing and the right business decision to make? Or do you, because you started on a path, no matter what, have to finish on that path because you should never give up? Are you flogging a dead horse, or are you never giving up to turn it round? And if you can turn it round, does it make sense? And should you turn it round. Or if there's an opportunity which can change everything and you can use your skill set and your resources to do it, and it is a good move, is that the right thing to do? It's been a year, even though we're only a little bit into it, a month, not that far into it, and days of contemplation. As every hour, new information surfaces and things change. I'm just trying to take it all in and make balanced and the right decision, which is actually open to interpretation depending on which side of the table you're sitting on or your own agenda or vested interests. And that's it for Ashville Weekly, episode 223. We've been doing this for more than 4 years. Over 4 years, week in, week out, making videos and going frame by frame, second by second, cutaway by cutaway, editing and trying to make them perfect while balancing and juggling everything outside, in the yard, on jobs, on clients' jobs. Over 4 years of a weekly show, plus standalone videos of my passions and projects which we're interested in. Over 100 million times people have watched Ashville videos. Over 100 million times out of somebody trying to grow a business in a sector that some might say
He had no business being in because he didn't go to school to learn how to be in that sector, and he kind of made it up as he went along.
Ollie has gone to collect a roller, which, oh, the lights are on. Dudek's on the way.
Hello mate, right, I can hear you now. Right, I got it on and then I touched the button on the top and now I've got a flashing red light on it. Is that recording?
But we can now see how the ground here is but it was not. We had a blockage here behind. We panicked slightly, but saner heads prevailed. The silo kept tripping. Having an extra is the sun in your shot. Okay. And Flo is going to use the 914 floor. Thank you for watching Ashville Weekly, episode 223. Click here for the Ashville website. Click here to subscribe to our channel. Click down here for an Ashville video you may not have seen before. And click down here for last week's episode, which was number 222.